Hello there and welcome back to the channel. This is Nerd Empire and continuing the series on the Replicators today. Today specifically we are going to be talking about Fifth. Now, as I may have explained in some of my previous videos, the human form replicators created by the block form replicators of the Milky Way and Ida galaxies, the initial few prototypes created by them as the sort of great experiment they were undertaking in order to emulate their creator Reese, who was a android machine created in the image of humans, was to create these series of prototypes. Now I assume that each one was basically the same except for this one, where they note that Fifth was an attempt by the replicators to correct the flaw inherent in the design of Reese, in that she was basically emotionally and psychologically unstable, and they wanted to try and fix it. Although they didn't believe they had succeeded, for some reason these hyperlogical machines had not simply destroyed Fifth. Perhaps they were intending on continuing the experiment. That would be a mistake. Fifth was created in 2003 on the planet of Hala, during a time while the replicators, pun intended, were stuck in a time dilation field, which they had been created by the Asgard to sort of capture them, but they'd actually altered it to accelerate time, allowing them to more thoroughly and efficiently strip mine the planet of resources, replicate into the almost unimaginable numbers, ready to burst out back in the galaxy and take on the Asgard directly. These new human form replicators were more durable and more powerful than the previous versions, being made not of robotic blocks, but of billions of microscopic machines known as nanites that went into their construction. They were kind of like a T-1000. Just saying, the animatic polyalloy thing is interesting, but most likely it was also made of nanites. They also look kind of similar, made all the stabby weapons and everything. Anyway, getting off target. These machines came with a series of new features, such as the ability to stick their hand inside your head, or realistically any appendage they wanted, as they didn't really have hands. It was simply a construct created by the nanites, which allowed them to interface with your neurons and read your mind, or at least read your thoughts, probe your brain, creating a bridge between the two. Fifth maintained the emotional instability inherent to his creator. They were not able to fix it. This allowed SG-1, who had been captured by the replicators for interrogation, an opportunity to undermine their captors. They were able to trick him. This also opens up several interesting avenues of thought about the replicators. Now, up until this point, the replicators have basically been, to give them an analogy from another cyber franchise, a bit like the Borg. They were not a single entity. One little replicator spider bug thing was not a replicator spider bug. It was the blocks. Collectively, all the blocks were basically one super organism. These new humanoid replicators seem to have, perhaps not individual personalities, but was certainly more individualistic, operating independently and able to be reformed if they were destroyed. But basically they operated as leaders. They brought personality and drive and a new dimension of thinking to the replicators. They became the replicators' default leaders. This was obviously by design. This was something the replicators had desired, realizing that this extra dimension of thinking would allow them to further their goal of replication even more efficiently. Replicators, being somewhat sentimental though, decided to try and fix their creator's flaw in Fifth. Now we'll get to, as I said, how this is a major mistake in a moment. I will mention that this video is sponsored by my sponsor, Relentless Rebels. Insert promo here. Today's video is brought to you by my great sponsor, Relentless Rebels. They specialize in the sale of various different Viking-themed jewelry and other apparel. You can find them relentlessrebels.com. If you go to their website, have a look around, find things that you might like. If you decide there's anything on there you want to purchase, use the promo code NERD20 to get a 20% discount on all the different things that they sell. These vary from pendants to rings and various other little things, most of which are Viking themed, but they do have numerous objects which are of their own original creation. So when you get a minute, head over to their website and check out their wares. If there's anything there that you do decide, as I said, use the promo code NERD20 to find yourself saving a little bit of money at checkout. With that said, let's get back to the video. Now, as I said, Replicator 5th was an attempt to fix the flaw in Reese, but they failed. The flaw was still inherent. He was emotionally unstable. This allowed Captain Samantha Carter at the time to undermine him and trick him into being empathetic, basically, towards them and helping them escape, and in theory go with them. But as they couldn't trust any single replicator surviving, and that was a good decision, he was left behind. But he was able to get into the time dilation device and allow the replicators to escape. The other human form replicators would be destroyed, but 5th would survive. He would then become the leader of the replicators. And this is where the emotional instability really becomes a problem for the replicators. See, all the other human form replicators are gone, and their only leader now is this 5th, who is insane. He is bent on revenge. He's not just interested in propagating his people and replicating, he's also interested in, well, basically getting revenge on Carter and SG-1 and the Tauri as a whole for their actions against him personally, not just against the replicators. Even though the replicators have been at war with the Asgard for many, many years, it is SG-1 and Earth that he develops a problem with. He's also stalker-like obsession with Carter leads to him to creating Replicator Carter. Basically, based on his probing of Carter's mind, he was able to create a copy of her in replicator form. But this Replicator Carter would be not quite the same as the original version. It was like Carter 2.0 with a little bit of dash of psychopathy thrown in there. We're going to do a video on her next time, so we'll stick with 5th. 5th was basically an infant. He was a child put in charge of one of the most technologically sophisticated and driven civilizations in the known galaxies. He almost brought everyone to their knees, but his obsession and insanity basically also nearly destroyed his own people, and it took Carter feigning betraying him, which was all part of a plan, which I'll get to in the next video, and then her actually betraying him and destroying him. And she would then become the leader of the replicators with 5th's destruction. 5th's story can be seen as something of a tragedy. He can't help the way he was created. He was born with the inherent flaws of the replicators' original creator, who created the replicators with a built-in flaw to begin with, which was their lack of individuality and their drive to simply replicate mindlessly and endlessly like a colony of insects, just interested in feeding and making more of themselves and nothing else, despite their vast amounts of knowledge and capabilities. With the human form replicators, the replicator of species was able to take on a new dimension. It also, in the form of 5th, because of his emotional instability and his anger, did take the replicators one step closer towards being more akin to their Pegasus galaxy replicator kins than perhaps they had already been, which is again food for thought of the overlapping possibilities of their foundations and base technology. Despite the fact that he was an immensely advanced piece of technology, just like Reese, the flaws in his programming were the undoing of 5th. But he could be seen as a tragedy. He did initially try to help SG-1. His sense of betrayal was justified, but his response to it, rather than being that of a rational, free-thinking individual, was one of a mad tyrant with an army at his disposal, and the girl that he liked told him she didn't want to go out with him, so he decided to invade her country. That's pretty much what's going on here. He had a stalker mentality. He was obsessive, compulsive, and very, very dangerous, but unfortunately also extraordinarily powerful. But his ego and avarice and obsession would ultimately be his destruction. I'm sure there's a lesson in there somewhere. Explore it in the comments below. With all that said, thank you for watching. That is the end of this video, and the next video coming will be Replicator Carter. I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to cover the Pegasus replicators, but I am feeling like I'm going to do that at a later date. I will be covering them, but I wanted to focus mainly on the Eider Galaxy replicators. There is one other video aside from Replicator Carter I might do in this series, and then I'm going to cut it off and move on to something else. Feel free in the comments below to suggest another topic for me to cover, either from Star Trek, Stargate, or otherwise.
I just want to take this moment to thank you for watching that video. If you liked what you saw, please check out my social links in the description box below to Instagram and Twitter and others, and also is down there a link to my Patreon page where you can support this channel and the others as I try to grow this franchise and do this more regularly. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, thank you for watching, and bye bye.